Yo, what's up, everybody? We wanted to do this on the Cold Cat Sports one because this is our Cold Cat Sports, but now this is also the other home of the Cold Cat Sports of the Two Pros podcast. So this is also another way we can grow the following. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. If you're not, well, nobody's in there, but the trade deadline just ended 2 hours ago. So we are going to talk about some of the big moves. We're going to discuss some winners and losers of the trade deadline. Say what's up.
There are a lot of losers.
There
in my
really
opinion.
are. There really are. And I think both of our teams might be two of them.
I'm so
Well,
mad at Cleveland. All right, why don't we get started at the
yeah.
bottom of our list?
So the first one that we're going to talk about is the first trade that happened this season, in which the Washington Wizards and the Atlanta Hawks made a trade in which Washington received Trae Young and Atlanta received CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. What is your big takeaway from this trade?
Sorry, I'm pulling up. So I think that Washington, of course, wins this trade. And obviously, this was a while ago. I think we know that they're going to sit Trae Young for the rest of the season so they can still hold on to their pick. But Washington was smart, buy low on a guy who's still going to be almost a 20-point per game and 12
Yeah.
assists per game guy for you. So I think this is an absolute win.
Hello, welcome to the trade deadline, everybody, or welcome to our live stream, the trade deadline reaction. We wanted to do this on the Cold Cat Sports, but we can't. But we're doing it on here, anyways, because this is also the home of the Two Bros podcast. But I do agree with your assessment of the Washington and Atlanta Trae Young trade. This is a really sell low trade. This is a low risk, high reward trade because they realistically didn't give up anything to get him, and they're not going to play him really at all this year. They're gonna say, "Hey Trae, you can sit the rest of the year because we want you to be our future, our point guard of the future." And then they still have Bilal Coulibaly. They still have Bub Carrington. They still have Alex Sarr. They still have Keyshawn George, and we're there. They got another piece later that we're going to talk about. But I do love this, and Atlanta. Hello, ASMR Wars. Welcome to the channel. We're just talking about the NBA trade deadline, giving our reactions to it. Oh, welcome everybody! Wow, we got a lot of views there. Hello, everybody. But anyways, we're going to continue. I do love the move for Washington. I think I'm doing great, ASMR Wars. How
Oh,
are you
what
doing?
happened? 27 live viewers out of
I
nowhere.
know. That's amazing. Hello, everybody.
Hey, we're glad
Next
to
one,
have you guys here.
yeah, we're glad to have
We are
you
talking
all.
the NBA trade deadline.
We
I actually
are.
just uploaded I actually just updated the title. So before you had it as just our live stream. So we're going over the NBA trade deadline right now.
And we started with all the trades this year. First with the Trae Young, which we just talked about. What do you give the Trae Young? What do you give the trade for both teams? What grade?
So I will start with Atlanta. I give them a C plus. I like CJ McCollum as a player, so I'm never gonna be super hey, thank you so much, ASMR Wars.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, a bit degenerate. I think that's what it says. A bit
Bit
of
of a
degenerate.
degenerate, yeah.
We're gonna hop into that in a little bit, but yeah,
Yeah.
we were both very surprised. I'll say that.
We were both really
Um,
surprised. It's
are
not
you a Jazz
something.
fan,
Yeah, are you a Jazz fan? A bit of a degenerate.
or are you a Grizzlies fan, or just an NBA fan in general?
Yeah, if you're an NBA fan, cool. If you're a Jazz fan, cool. If you're a Grizzlies fan, cool. Thanks for commenting. We love comments here. We're gonna get to that trade though very soon because that was kind of the trade that really shook the whole trade deadline up. But what?
Hey, you know what? Nothing wrong
Hey,
with being a
no, yeah,
Jazz fan.
the Jazz have a future. The Jazz actually have a legitimate future, which is something they really haven't had since Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert left. And now they have pieces. They have Lowry Markkinen. They have Jaren Jackson Jr. They're going to re-sign Walker Kessler. That's why they haven't. That's why they
Keontae
turned
George.
down every trade. Yeah, Keontae George. I know I said Keyshawn George in the Anthony Davis TikTok post, but it's actually Keontae. It's Keyshawn George for the Wizards, Keontae George for the Jazz. But they still have Isaiah Collier. They have a lot of young pieces, and I think they needed to get off of some of the young pieces. Hi, Super Kitty. They needed to get off some of the young pieces, and I think they did it perfectly by deciding who wasn't going to be there. I do feel like they probably should have moved Cody Williams in the trade. But we're talking way too much about this right now. We're going to get to that later. But what do you give the grades for the Wizards and the
Ooh.
Hawks in
You
this
know,
trade?
I think what I would give the Hawks is
Oh,
a C plus, and the Wizards I'd say a A minus. I mean,
the Wizards A minus. We do not have kids. Well, I don't have kids, and you don't have kids yet.
no, not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Bryce is
We have,
getting
we
married
have,
soon, though.
we have. I am getting married in August, but wow, time flies. When we created this channel, both of us were in high school,
I'm
and
so blown away.
I know that's wild. But yeah, no, I'm getting married in August. The only kids I have right now are fur children. Yeah, fur
I would say
children.
you guys did see the cat who I was holding up, but
Yeah,
he just left. I don't know
yeah,
where he's.
but I think I give Washington an A plus too. I think they really gave up nothing to get Trey Young, and they're going to sit him and then still keep their draft capital this year. Atlanta, I think I give a B plus because they did move off of Trey Young, which was a source of all their trade drama over the last 4 or so years, and
Sorry, I'm
ever since they
adjusting
made
my
the
back.
conference finals. Ever since they made the conference finals, and I think it's
His fiance.
my fiance. That's who I'm going to marry.
Sorry, guys, we're not going to give up any kind of personal information
No,
like that.
no,
This is the internet. You don't know who's on here.
yeah.
But I saw, sorry, a bit of a degenerate. I saw your comment. Man, that's tough. Being a
Yeah,
fan of
that's
the
tough.
team, the one chance you have to win a finals, you have to come up against Michael Jordan is not easy.
I mean, you
I
had to
was
deal with
born in
him.
'98, so sadly, my birth year was the year that you guys lost to him.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think that them getting out of the Trey Young saga is why, and now they can fully start over, especially with some of the moves they made at the deadline. But next, we're going to talk about the first Cleveland trade of the trade deadline.
All right,
Even though it didn't happen this week, the
I am a
Cleveland.
Cavs fan,
Oh yeah,
so
yeah. You
that's
could.
a
Cleveland receives Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. Sacramento receives DeAndre Hunter, and we do love football.
we actually in our podcast we talk football, so a
Yeah,
lot.
the NFL episode's coming out later today. Actually, I put the NBA episode up before the trade deadline, just so we had an NBA episode out. But yeah, and then I'm a Colts fan in the NFL. I'm a Colts and Panthers fan, and he's a Packers fan. I'm a Lakers fan.
He's a Lakers fan. I'm a Cavs
I'm a
fan.
Lakers fan. But yeah, Chicago receives Dario Saric and a 2027 second round pick and a 2029 second round pick. Since you're the Cavs fan, you can go first about what you think of.
Yeah, I love this trade. We actually just got to watch Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder play last night. They played limited minutes, of course. Still getting used to the packet. Sorry, and used to the team they're on. But they both played very well. You can see Keon Ellis is a bit of a spark plug on defense as a team who has been struggling on defense from the guard position. I'm really excited to have him. Dennis Schroeder is a veteran and knows how to get it done. We watched him ball out with the Pistons last year in the playoffs, so I'm super excited for this. But I would say I'm more excited for Sacramento because DeAndre Hunter is a really good player. Yes, his efficiency has dipped this year, but I still see him being a really good 3 and D player.
Yeah.
He stepped up massively for Cleveland last year in the playoffs against, was it Orlando they played?
I think they played Orlando in round 1.
Orlando, because they took them to 7.
I think they lost to the Knicks in round 2 or Indiana in round 2.
They lost to Indiana in round 2. Yeah. But he played really well. I think it's Shema. My favorite football player right now is Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. As a Packers fan, Bryce?
Mine right now is tough because a lot of the Colts right now, I think I'll have to say Jonathan Taylor. I think I will have to say Jonathan Taylor or Bryce Young.
Not Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. It's either Jonathan Taylor or Bryce Young right now.
You're not a Daniel Jones fan?
I like Daniel Jones, but Bryce Young is the solidified answer for the Panthers. But what grades do you? And then you didn't talk about Chicago.
Chicago.
Well,
you're not really getting much out of it, but
well, it also kind of goes out the window the next day or two, anyways. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But a few days after. But what are your grades for each of these teams?
I'm going to give both of them a B. I think both teams needed to move on from the players they did. So I think that you're going to overall see these two teams benefiting a lot.
Yeah.
Sacramento was a bit of a surprising team this deadline. Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit more about them later on. But, honestly, I'm really happy for both teams.
And then Chicago just really gets draft capital out of this.
Chicago is my most surprising team in the deadline because
Yeah.
after we talk about all their moves, I'm really confused at what they're doing.
Oh yeah, me too. Still, like, I don't get the direction. I get it, but at the same time, I still don't. I think I give the Cavs a B plus.
Oh, what the heck's happened?
What?
Do you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, cool.
Uh, but I think I give the Cavs a B plus here. I think this move kind of makes the Darius Garland trade, which we're going to talk about later. I think it kind of lessens the blow a little because Keon Ellis is still young. Dennis Schroeder is a nice veteran piece to have behind James Harden, who we're gonna talk about later. Sacramento, I love this move. It's a good 3-and-D guy. However, I do wish Sacramento made more moves at the deadline. I think there were other options they could have unloaded, but you can't really complain when you get a guy like DeAndre Hunter on your team. And then Chicago gets draft picks, so you can't really complain. But next we have Portland receiving Vit Krejci and Atlanta receiving Duop Reith, a 2027 second and a 2030 second round pick.
To be honest, to me, it doesn't really mean much. I think these two teams kind of just sent second round like backup players to each other. In my opinion, this is a very meaningless trade. Atlanta Atlanta has one of the most interesting deadlines so far, but I'm very curious of just what they're gonna do with it.
Yeah.
You know, Atlanta was the team that everyone's like, okay, they moved off Trey Young so they can get Anthony Davis, and now that we see what their trade deadline ended up being, it's kind of like, what was the whole purpose of all
Yeah.
this?
I think I like the Vit Krejci move. I think a lot more than I like the Duop Reith move because Vit Krejci is a good shooter to have off of the bench, and Portland is a team that is still trying to figure out its identity, and they're trying to make a playoff push. And I think Vit Krejci is a good guy off the bench, and they really didn't give up much to get Vit Krejci. Um, Obviously, getting draft capital for Atlanta is great, but how much is Duop Reith going to play when they still have Onyeka Okongwu, and they kind of replace Vic Krejci shooting later at the deadline. That's all I'll say. But I think Portland gets a C, and I think Atlanta also gets a C for this. I think it was a beneficial move for both teams, but not really a needle mover.
No, I'm with you on this. I think the Hawks are a fun team for sure. They're a team who we're going to see be interesting in a few years, but I just very much wonder what this deadline did for them.
Alrighty, bit of a degenerate. Here we go. Here's the trade that you were waiting for right here because Memphis receives Kyle Anderson, Walter Clayton Jr., Taylor Hendricks, Georges Niang, a 2027 first round pick, most favorable between Minnesota, Utah, and Cleveland. I said Brooklyn on the TikTok. It is not Brooklyn's, it's Cleveland's. A 2027 first round pick from the Lakers and a 2031 pick between and a 2031 first round pick from Phoenix, and I just realized I forgot to put the what Utah got back. It was Jaren Jackson Jr., Jock Landale, Vince Williams, and I have to go back and see this. What?
Why am I forgetting the fourth player they got?
I can pull it up right here. I see it right here.
They also got 3 firsts.
John Conchar.
No,
John Conchar.
Sorry, Memphis got 3 firsts.
Yeah, John Conchar. That's who it is. What do you think about this trade?
I'm gonna give Utah an A. I think Utah overall did better on this. I think that they were right to make this move. Obviously, they're really not great right now, but they're going to improve. So I like what this team is going to do after this move. I give them an A. I also really like Memphis. I think Memphis got a lot back. Walter Clayton is a guy who is going to give you a lot of good minutes and a lot of good basketball. He's older, and that's fine. You know, we don't have to obsess with these 19-year-old rookies anymore. I think that for us as NBA fans, we need to recognize that like teams don't always have to have this like superstar return. So I think both teams deserve an A.
I think both teams deserve an A too. I think especially the Jazz receive an A because they didn't give up their 2026 pick. This year? Okay. Whoa,
What just
green
happened?
background.
What
Oh,
is going
green
on with my
background.
live stream?
But yeah, no, I do love the package that because they didn't give up their first this year, and what
Wait, I can make
they'll
a green screen. That's what it can be. All right,
they
keep going.
they may give up their first next year, but it really doesn't matter because they will be competitive next year with a potential top five pick. This year, Jaron Jackson Jr., Larry Markkinen, Walker Kessler, Keontae George, Isaiah
Oh, nope,
Collier.
nope, nope. Sorry, not that. God,
Isaiah
God, what's
Collier.
going on? What is going on here?
I don't think Jaron Jackson Jr. is going to play, so I do think they're going to keep their pick. Well, they'll play in the games that they decide not to sit Lauri Markkinen or Keontae George. I think they'll alternate every 3 games, like they've been doing between Keontae George and Lauri Markkinen. Neither one of them have really been playing together. Kyle Filipowski has been playing a lot. Uh, and then obviously the Grizzlies get a lot of draft capital. They get Walter Clayton Jr., they get Taylor Hendricks, who are good building blocks. George Ziang is a good piece off the bench, as well as Kyle Anderson. Are you there?
I am, dude. This thing. I've been
Okay, there
fighting.
we go.
What? There we go. Finally, I can get a
There
green
we
screen in the
go.
background for us to have.
There we go.
A bit of a degenerate. It says they're intentionally bad. They must stay in the top 8 draft pick, or it goes to OKC. I'm just worried they might be too good to stay bottom 8 now. I think Jaren Jackson probably sits. I think he's
Yeah,
going to have a mystery injury like Lauri Markkinen and Keontae George have had. So I
yeah.
would not be surprised if he does not play for the rest of
I
the season.
think I think they'll get a top 3 pick this year, knowing that they fully well intend to be competitive next year. They will sit Keontae George, Robert Markkinen, and Jaron Jackson Jr. the rest of the way. They may as well. They may also sit as a Collier and Kyle Filipowski the rest of the way.
You can't make it that obvious.
You're right. You can't make it that obvious. But I do think we see a lot more Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski over the year. And I think Jaron Jackson Jr. has played his last game in the 2025-2026 season. All right. Next, we have another trade that really kind of made no sense. Well, we had the first trade that really kind of made no sense for, well, no, one of them. Chicago receives Mike Conley and Jaden Ivey. Detroit receives Kevin Herter, Dario Saric, who was repackaged from Chicago to Detroit, and a 2026 first round pick swap from Minnesota. And then Minnesota receives cash. What do you think of this trade?
Yeah, I like Jaden Ivey as a player, but I'm very confused with what the Bulls are doing. This is
Yeah,
the
and
first of
it
many
doesn't
moves for
change.
them.
And yeah,
So I don't think the Bulls got anything here that makes them like, oh, I'm excited for my future. I mean, yeah, I like Jaden Ivey once again, but you should have been landing some kind of draft capital.
yeah.
Kevin Herter
Well,
is one of the better shooters in the league, and to give him up, and Darius Arch, who's also a very solid shooter as well.
yeah.
Um,
The fact
I
that the
think they
only
really screwed
pick,
themselves over here.
you know,
I
the
think
fact that,
Detroit 100% wins this trade by
yeah,
getting a first round swap.
yeah,
And Minnesota, you're smart, get cash. This thing is Minnesota. I thought them getting cash was going to line up for them getting Giannis, the
Giannis.
guy right behind me. We'll talk more about that later on. But this was a overall lose win. I think the best team in the East gets a little bit better and gets a first round pick to show for it.
Yeah. A bit of a degenerate. Yeah, I think that they will get Banta, I think they will get Banta, and he's the one. He's still he plays it in Utah still, so he would stay in Utah.
Yeah,
I
he's a
think.
BYU guy.
Yeah, he plays at BYU. Yeah, so I do think that he's going to stay in Utah, and I think they're going to draft him with top 3 pick. So the Jazz future looks really bright. It is, and Jazz fans, you finally have hope after getting rid of Rudy and Donovan Mitchell. Next, we have, I think this is really a nothing burger for Chicago because they have him and Bailey are exactly the same.
Yeah.
I do think that.
They're a
But
level up player.
it's a nothing burger for Chicago considering they rerouted Mike Conley. They got no draft picks. They gave up Kevin Herter and Dario Saric for essentially nothing. Well, Jaden Ivey is a nice piece, but we'll see later in the deadline that this move didn't make sense along with most of the other moves.
If he was the only guard they picked up, I'd make like that makes sense. Like, but it doesn't at all.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Okay, next we are going to talk about Why is this lumped together? Well, it's two separate trades because Chicago
You
made the
okay?
next trade after this because they received Anthony Simons and a second round pick, and in return they ship off Nikola
Why did you
Vucevic and
lump
a
that?
second round pick to Chicago, meaning they made three trades, all of which involving guards.
Yeah, Chicago's the team who's known for consistently like getting players who don't really fit their scheme. First off, Josh Giddey is your star, right? Why are you bringing in two young guards
Yeah.
that can then take away time from him? I think overall Chicago is the biggest loser of the deadline to me. Um,
No, I don't think about that. We'll talk
but
about that later.
I think so. I think Chicago's the biggest loser. Um, I think that one thing that intrigues me about obviously one thing we know about the trade deadline is the next day tends to be buyout day.
Yep.
So I wonder who of all these players that we've seen moved, like Mike Conley,
Conley.
a player we're going to see later on. We're talking about later on. Most likely is a
Mhm.
buyout candidate. Um, Chicago, in my opinion, should have been the team picking up buyout candidates. They
They
should have been
really
the
should have.
team grabbing crappy players who just don't fit on their team, so they can cut them and then basically move on, cut their losses and get
Yeah.
draft picks. They didn't do that. They
It's
grabbed a
nice
bunch
that
of
they
young
did.
guards.
It's nice that they did that they did get a draft pick, but I feel like this is just trade after trade after trade that's making no sense
But
because there's no first round picks
I'm
involved,
sorry,
and you're
Anthony
really
Simons. Let
making
me look
stuff
this up.
confusing. I think he's averaging 25 a game right now.
I don't even think he's averaging that. He's averaging 14.2, 2.4, and 2.4 and 44% from the field. He's also 26 years old. Yes, his last game he had 27, 3 and 1. He's not going to be a facilitator that you need.
He's really
You
not.
let go of I'm sorry, your two best wings, your two best but outside of Giddy, your two best players. You got nothing that makes
I
up for
mean,
what they lost.
this wasn't even the worst trade that they made. It,
Oh
it
no.
wasn't. It wasn't. There's way worse trades they made. But I think obviously I do think that the winner of this trade is Boston because as we talked about in the podcast, they were looking for a starting caliber center. And this is a good center. I do think there were better options as we see later in the deadline, but I do think that it was a move in the right direction for Boston to get a pick as well as getting off of Anthony Simon's contract, which they fully expected to do when they traded for him
Oh
in the
yeah,
offseason.
I was blown away by the fact that Boston did such a good job.
Yeah, they made one move, but no, two moves, which we'll talk
Two
about
moves,
later.
but they both worked out very well for the
They
team.
did. Next, we have this trade that I know you're still mad about, and it's a little hard to process because the Clippers and the Cavs made a trade in which the Clippers received Darius Garland and a 2026 second round pick, and Cleveland receives James Harden.
Yeah, this one's very frustrating to be honest as a Cavs fan. I think you get rid of a guy who has been with your team since what 2021 or
I think it
2020.
was 2019.
20 I thought it was 29. Since 2019, there is no reason you move off him for a guy who's 10 years older who also doesn't show up in the playoffs. Cleveland was going to make it no matter what. And I think that became a bit obvious that they needed to move on, but to move on from him for a guy who's a decade older, who has his injury issues and who possibly won't even be with your team in 2 years really upsets me.
He keep in mind he's also not under contract after this year.
And also, what you really should have done if you were going to move on from him is get a heavily defensive minded guard. I really wanted Jalen Suggs. I thought the idea of trading for him was outstanding. Jalen Suggs, maybe you could even potentially like utilize some contracts and pick up Trey Murphy. I was really upset that they decided James Harden was the way to go.
Yeah, this trade obviously makes a million times more sense for the Clippers than it does for the
And
Cavs.
after seeing their moves, it makes even more sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because the Clippers got so much for their future. Granted, it may not really benefit much early on, but we're going to start to see the payoff because Darius Garland is under contract for what, the next 4 years? They got a draft pick this year. He's 10 years younger than James Harden.
It might be a
And
Might be a second rounder, but it's a pick. And Cleveland's another team that's hurting for picks. They don't have a lot to work with. So to give up a second round pick for a 36-year-old, hoping that he can then lure LeBron James to come in the offseason, it just makes no sense.
So, what do you give this grade for the Clippers?
The Clippers, I'm going to give them a B minus. I like Garland. I think he's very injury prone, so you have to question that. But your entire team's injury prone. For Cleveland, this is an F. I understand what James Harden offers you now, but in a year from now, you're going to see that they really gain nothing from this.
And it may signal the end for Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland. And we may see very well next offseason that we have a lot of rumors talking about Donovan Mitchell. Well, we may see this offseason when both Giannis is going to turn down that player option or an extension if he's not traded. Donovan Mitchell may turn down a contract extension, meaning the 2026-2027 season is going to be huge for the Cavs. They need to do something, and they need to do something fast. I thought this trade was going to set up another trade for the Cavs. I thought it was going to set up more. They were going to trade Jared Allen for other guys, and this was the last move they made. It was.
Yeah,
Second to last.
I really expected them to go for a strong defensive player with this and to just pretty much basically lose two players and like get back James Harden, but it blows my mind.
Yeah. Next, we have the second splash of the trade deadline because Washington receives Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum, and Dallas receives Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley, a 2026 first-round pick from OKC, a 2030 first-round pick from Golden State, top 20 protected, a 2026 second-round pick from Phoenix, a 2027 second-round pick from Chicago, and a 2029 second-round pick from Houston. What are your thoughts on this trade?
Washington next year is going to be a very dangerous team. Yep. What I like about Washington is they still managed to retain their own pick.
Mm-hmm.
So when Anthony Davis doesn't play for the rest of the season, along with Trae Young,
he's gonna get that wrist surgery.
He's gonna get surgery.
Yeah.
Along with Trae Young, they're gonna have a top 5 pick, and they're gonna get a Cam Boozer, an AJ DeBonsa, or Darren Peterson, or even what's his name, the guy from Kentucky or the guy from UNC, Caleb Wilson.
Yeah,
like you're gonna land one of those guys. To me, this is just, dude. Washington won so heavily. In my opinion, they're probably the winners of the deadline right now. But for Dallas, you got Chris Middleton, Malachi Branham, who we'll talk about later on, AJ Johnson, Marvin Bagley, and some picks. But those picks aren't going to do much for you. They're all going to be towards the end. One of them from OKC.
It's going to be a bottom 2 pick. It's going to
be
a bottom.
OKC,
it's going to be a bottom 4 pick at the worst.
A 2030 pick from Golden State that's top 20 protected means they're probably going to get it back. And a bunch of second rounders. You really gave up Luka Doncic for Chris Middleton, some role players, and some crappy picks.
And I get the Mavericks moving off of Anthony Davis because we knew that was going to happen once Nico was gone. But I thought that this trade was also going to signify it signified more moves being made for Dallas, splashes, and this was their only move. They held on to Daniel Gafford. They held on to Klay Thompson. They held on to Kyrie Irving.
Like, not moving Gafford really made no sense. Klay Thompson, I feel like, is going to be a buyout candidate. Kyrie Irving will be there probably until he's going to be a development guy. What really throws me off in this is giving up Jaden Hardy. He is a very good young point guard. Young, and he's 25. In NBA terms, is not too young, but still young enough. Kyrie Irving is an injured 30-plus-year-old point guard. I think holding on to a guy like Jaden Hardy would be a really smart move to do. You're 100% right. Cooper Flag. Yeah. I mean, a lot of backroom moves, but I wonder if you could have got more to help him out in the future.
I feel like you could have. And this is not the right draft capital. It's not the right draft capital.
Anthony Davis getting injured really held this back.
You good? Are you good? I
All
think.
right, sorry,
Oh,
I
go
was getting a phone call. If Anthony Davis doesn't get injured this draft, like this capital is gonna be way more. I think you're getting a Zachary Sachet. I think you're getting a guy like maybe even a Jalen Johnson type player. No, Jalen Johnson would probably be moved for Giannis,
I,
but you're
well,
gonna get a player
there's
along the mindset of Zachary Sachet.
there's another guy getting hurt that kind of hurt this that kind of hurt the Mavs getting more too. But
That's
there's
true.
another guy getting hurt that kind of really hurt this move. Be getting the Mavs getting more picks out of this. There's another guy getting hurt.
Who?
Jimmy Butler.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because
That's true.
they were rumored when Jimmy Butler was there, they were rumored to make a move for Anthony Davis, and then Jimmy Butler tears his ACL, and then the Warriors had to pivot. So I get it, but I get it. This was the best they probably could have done given the circumstances, but they also pigeonholed themselves into this by making the stupidest trade in NBA history a year ago. But it's good they got out of it. But what do you give this grade for Washington?
For Washington, I'm going to give him an A. I mean, you're getting Anthony Davis for a bunch of picks you didn't even need, not even giving up your own first round pick, which is insanely valuable. Getting a guy when he plays as a top 10 player in the NBA. Yeah, I got to give them an A. For Dallas, I'm going to give him a C just because you did get some first round picks. We've seen players come out of the end of the first round that end up being really valuable players, but you can't bank on that. I think what the smartest thing for them to do would be take the pick they got this offseason and make a move for a guy, maybe move up or move for a guy who will be beneficial for
Yeah,
what's his name, Cooper Flag's development. A player we saw traded later on today really was, in my opinion, a player who should have went to Dallas, and we'll talk about that. But a player who's traded from Indiana, I'll say that
yeah.
would have been
Oh,
an
yeah,
amazing fit with Dallas,
yeah.
but they just probably didn't have the capital to get him.
Okay, next we have the trade that I really didn't want to happen because this is just the rich getting richer. Oklahoma City receives Jared McCain. Philadelphia receives a 2026 first from Houston, a 2027 second, most favorable between OKC, Houston, Indiana, and Miami. Two 2028 second round picks from OKC and Milwaukee.
I agree with you. Jared McCain is a very good player. You and I have talked a lot about this. OKC is by far the favorite, and what really bothered me is they make this trade right after Shea goes down, which gives them the depth. AJ Mitchell is now going to slide into that starting lineup. And you had a question, okay, is AJ Mitchell who's going to play their backup point guard?
Now we
Now,
don't have to
guess
worry
what?
about it.
You got Jared McCain, who is a very good high volume scorer when you need him to be. And on a really well run team like the Thunder, he's going to unlock a lot of capability to be a potential six man of the year
And
candidate.
And I get that there's a lot of discourse because he hasn't played great. Well, he's still coming back from injury. Leg injuries, this was a meniscus tear. It's not like it's a normal sprain. No, this was a tear of something in your knee, which is not normal. It's not quick to return from. And I think that's what people don't get. That's why people are so down on Jaden Ivey when Jaden Ivey is still getting back into his body and his basketball form. It's going to take at least a year for Jared McCain to be back to Jared McCain again. And this was a real trade that was baffling for the Sixers because they did have a young player. And I'm surprised that they didn't do more at the deadline other than the two moves they made. But
You know, I actually don't mind this for the Sixers. They didn't have the room to keep him around. They're going to have to give a lot of players extensions. So he doesn't fit. VJ Edgecombe is going to be outstanding.
he's a monster.
Tyrese Maxey, you have Quentin Grimes, you picked up in last year's deadline. I just don't think there's space for him. So Jared McCain was the odd man out. And I like the fact that they got a first round pick for him in multiple seconds because I think OKC saw his value. So this is a win-win for both teams, but man, OKC just keeps getting better. And a lot of people are going to sit here and talk about how McCain's stats are down. Like you said, he's coming back from a major injury. It's going to take time. And once he develops away from that terrible Philadelphia, what's it called, training staff, OKC is going to have him playing like the animal he is again.
Yeah. And I this might be one of the most low-key impactful moves of the deadline. But next, we have another baffling move from the Chicago Bulls because they received Colin Sexton, Ousmane Dieng, a 2029 second-round pick, least favorable of Denver or Charlotte, a 2031 second-round pick from the
Oh,
Knicks,
that
a
must have hurt.
2031 second-round pick from Denver. Charlotte receives Mike Conley, who will be bought out and probably go back to Minnesota. Kobe White and a 2029 second-round pick, least favorable of Atlanta or Miami. And Oklahoma City receives Mason Plumlee, who was waived already.
Yeah, once again, Chicago picking up guards. Like, let's take a look at this. Chicago Bulls.
And this is a spoiler
Chicago
alert for
Bulls
later. If you
roster.
haven't paid attention to all the trades, we're about to mention some guards. There's about to be some guards mentioned that we haven't mentioned yet. If you
Also, if you
don't know,
haven't if you haven't seen the trades, how are you even in this live?
well,
Josh
maybe
Giddey, Anthony Simons, Trey Jones, Colin Sexton, Jaden Ivey, Anthony Simons.
Anthony Simons.
Dude, there are so many guards on this team.
Not
They
counting their
have
shooting guards, also.
no. These are their point guard, shooting guard. Like this team, you're right. That's oh my gosh. This team doesn't. Oh, Trey Jones. Forgot about him. Sorry. They also have Isokoro.
Yeah,
Like
no,
this team.
this is so baffling.
What are they
Like,
doing?
why are they trading guards for guards when they didn't need guards in the first place?
Well,
They
they're not
didn't
even
need
that.
guards in
Oh,
the
I
first
forgot.
place.
Sorry, forgot to mention Rob Dillingham.
Yeah, yeah.
Like this team. I'm sorry. They're a poorly run franchise. Gone are
yeah,
the days of your Jordan. Gone are the days of Jordan.
yeah. Oh yeah, oh
Gone
yeah.
are the days of where they're like, okay, let's make a move that makes sense.
No, well, they really haven't made sense when they passed on trading. Since they passed on trading Scottie Pippen for Tracy McGrady, but that's besides the point. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think Chicago is the ultimate losers of this trade. I think Charlotte really gets a good haul because Conley's gone. They get a 2029 second round pick and they get Kobe White, although it hurts for them losing Colin Sexton. It does. But like they got a better they got a probably a more efficient Colin Sexton, I think they did in this trade. Which is good for them because they were starting to heat up. And if you want a Colin Sexton upgrade, there you go. There's Kobe White. But next we have
Yeah.
Brooklyn receiving Ochai Agbaji and a second round pick. The Clippers receive draft rights to Vanya Marinkovic, and Toronto receives Chris Paul, who was told not to report to the team, meaning he's probably going to be bought out.
Yeah, it's almost a guarantee.
Yeah,
You know, this just feels like a bit of a lateral move for
it
both
does.
teams, for all teams. Um, when you receive rights to a player, you're like, cool, whatever. This does not affect me this season. The Clippers needed to make a splash. Now they did. They got rid of James Harden. But what is your future? What are you doing?
I mean, Chris Paul
Now,
wasn't going to play anyways.
the trade
So
later on, in my opinion, was absolutely vital to their future.
it was.
But looking at the protections of one of the picks,
You cutting out still. I don't know what's going on with this. We're having technical difficulties right now. But this is, yeah, as you said, this is really kind of a nothing trade. It really kind of is.
Wi-Fi cut
Ochai
off.
Agbaji isn't going to do much. They get a second round pick, which is nice. But Brooklyn, they should have made other moves. And I think that the fact that they didn't make the other moves that I think everybody realistically thought they should have made is baffling to me. Like Ochai Agbaji, I think is a guard, and they don't need guards because they drafted 4. They drafted 4 in the 2025 draft. Yeah, no, this is really kind of a nothing trade for all teams involved. I
It
don't
felt
really
like
think
teams
there's a
moving
winner.
around salary cap
Yeah.
for no
Alrighty.
reason.
Next, we have Atlanta receiving Jock Landale, which means the Grizzlies already Utah's already rewriting Jock Landale. Utah receives Lonzo, who will be waived in cash considerations, and Cleveland receives 2 second round picks.
Yeah, this might have been the best. Sorry, not the best, because I believe the best move the Cleveland made was getting
Ellis
Keon
and Dennis
Ellis
Schroeder.
and Dennis Schroeder. But I like this move more than I like the move of James Harden. At least they got picks out of this. Lonzo Ball wasn't going to play for them. They grabbed Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder, which means their point guard backcourt was completely stacked. So I'm cool with this. I think Utah was smart to do this. They weren't never going to play Lonzo. He move off of him. It's fine. Atlanta getting Jock Landale is good. I mean, a trade they made later on also helps them out a lot with this. Jock
Yeah,
Landale is a guy who's going to play meaningful minutes for this team. So I think
definitely now. Yeah,
a win-win-win for all teams.
yeah. Next, we have Toronto receiving Trace. Oh wait, Atlanta receiving Jonathan Kuminga and Golden State receiving. Oh wait, Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield and Golden State
You
receiving
skipped
Chris Stapps
the
Porzingis.
Orlando trade as well.
Oh yeah, Charlotte receives Tyus Jones and a 2027 second round pick. Least favorable of Boston or Orlando, and then Orlando receives cash.
I actually think this is a bad trade for both teams. Orlando needs point guard play. I understand Tyus Jones hasn't been great, but to punt on a guy that you gave a contract to this offseason that quickly for money, they must be expecting there to be a bit of a buyout market for point guards. And that's my
Chris
only
Paul,
if there is a I don't know if Chris
Mike
Paul's going to play
Conley,
meaningful
Chris
minutes for the
Paul,
team.
Mike Conley,
Mike
maybe
Conley,
Kyle Lowry, maybe Kyle Lowry.
Mike Conley makes a lot of sense. Kyle Lowry at this point he's a little too old. Um, Punting on a player Utah just signed does not make sense. And then
Who's
giving up a second
especially
round pick as well.
especially who is as efficient with the basketball as you can be, almost a guy that doesn't turn the ball over, a guy that really passes the ball well. It just makes no sense. It really doesn't. I don't get it. And Charlotte, I like they get Tyus Jones and they get a draft pick, which is good out of this. I just don't understand what Orlando's doing.
All right, now you can talk about that trade Utah.
Now Atlanta receives Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield, and then Golden State receives Kristaps Porzingis. This is a trade I think all of us woke up to this morning, or you saw it last night. But my goodness, this is finally Jonathan Kuminga's gone.
It's about time.
Yeah,
I think good.
Yeah, I do think that I think Golden State realistically could have got more. I think they could have, but Jonathan Kuminga's trade value right now is just so down in the dumps that they realistically had to trade for a guy who's probably going to play 10 to 15 games for Golden State over the last 31 games.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, but if they can get 20 games out of Kristaps Porzingis, I do think this is a win for them because Kristaps is the perfect kind of center to have alongside Steph and
And
alongside
Draymond
Draymond
Green.
Green. And I don't really think that either team loses this trade. Jonathan Kuminga has a really interesting future in the league. I don't think he's a guy that is ever going to be looked at as a reliable starter, but I do think he's a guy that will put up buckets. He's kind of like Cam Johnson or Cam Thomas, who we're going to talk about later. But
Well,
I do think that Jonathan Kuminga has a little bit of a Napoleon complex to where he actually thinks he's better than he is.
Oh, 100%. I think, what's interesting to me is Golden State has been this team who kind of does not understand how to develop a player outside of Stephen Curry, Draymond
And
Green, and
Klay
Klay
Thompson,
Thompson.
yeah.
Jordan Poole's a perfect example of this team. He really should have been the next man up. Arguably, he was going to be their guy after Steph. Draymond Green punches him. They decide to side with Draymond instead of recognizing that Draymond was really on the decline, has not been very good for the past few years, and they let go of the player who should be their second option. Now we're looking at Kuminga, who was looked at as okay. Now he's going to take over, and he just was not. He was
Him
not
and
that
Steve Kerr
player.
never got along.
So what I think could work out for Kuminga in this sense is he's going to go to a team that has a strong coach. Quinn Snyder, in my opinion, is a very, very good offensive mind. What is going to lose for him is he thinks he's a starter. They are. This is a team with Jalen Johnson and Zachary Risachet who are not going to be coming to the bench. Jalen
No.
Johnson, who is this team's absolute star. If you look at their starting lineup, I believe it's Dyson Daniels, Nikhil Alexander Walker, Zachary Risachet, Jalen Johnson, and then Onyeka
Onyeka
Okongwu.
Okongwu.
This team has no room to sit any of those guys. He could become an elite sixth man to them, but I just think he kind of lost out by who he went to. There's no
And then
development for him. There's no room to become the star.
and then I do think Buddy Hield is going to be an elite shooter off the bench for them. I do, especially after they lost Luke Kennard and we haven't got to that yet. But Luke Kennard and then Kevin Huerter left a few years later. Or Kevin Huerter left last year. Last year I think. But I think it's a good move for both sides, but it's also not a great move for both sides.
One thing I
Uh,
like for Golden State on this is we saw how important Kristaps was to that Celtics championship when they won. Of course, he got injured, but him in the playoffs, he was very good.
he was a
So
monster in the playoffs. He
what the
was the
Warriors
missing
are
piece
hoping
for them.
for, they're not too worried about him playing 30 games. They're worried about him being hurt right now and being healthy. Well, he's back. They're worried about him staying healthy for the playoffs. They're in
Yeah,
the play in tournament. I think the West in the play in spot is open enough to where if you can get through, as long as you're not facing one or two, you can probably have a chance to advance.
yeah.
So I think Golden State understands that this is their chance. You basically go all in around Steph Curry. You give Draymond Green the backcourt running mate that he needs to be, who has size and the ability to shoot. I think Golden State was really smart for this move.
Yeah. Next, we have another Golden State trade because Toronto receives Trace Jackson Davis and Golden State receives a 2026 second round pick from the Lakers. What do you think of this trade?
This was just a pretty much a reactionary trade. You just got another center. You don't need Trace Jackson Davis on the team, who's really hasn't been doing much for them. My only issue is you're giving up a young center for a guy who probably won't be in your team next year. I do not foresee
Well,
them
maybe.
re-signing him. Uh,
I think they would
I think if anything, they're going to give him like a 1 year prove it deal, and that's okay. If they do that, then they have him, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green. But
because now it's obvious Draymond's staying. It
in
is
my opinion, they traded the wrong young player here. I think B
Moses
Pods
Moody.
probably should have been on his way out instead of
Moses
anything
Moody.
else. Moses Moody has been playing very well for them, so I don't mind them holding on to him. I think Brandon Pojemski should have been traded this deadline.
I also don't get it for for Toronto because they needed a center after Jakob Poeltl went down, and I feel like there were also better centers on the market. Daniel
You
Gafford.
know, I don't think they were willing to give up that much. I think the reason we saw Daniel Gafford didn't get moved is because they were whatever they were asking for. I just saw on Twitter that the
One
Bucks were
first.
asking the Bucks were asking for 6 first round picks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. If Giannis is going to get 6 picks and PP teams aren't willing to trade for that, and they're going to go to the next best, you're going to ask for 2 or 3 first round picks for a guy like Daniel Gafford. So I think Trace Jackson Davis was the best this team was going to get for right now, and especially just give up a second
First?
round pick. They wanted 6 first for Giannis. Trace Jackson Davis was the best they were going to get for only giving up a second round pick, and a second round pick
That's
that
fair.
wasn't even theirs.
That's fair. Alrighty. Next, we have Chicago receiving Gershon Yabusele. Guess what? They didn't trade. They didn't trade for a guard. They
This
didn't
might have
trade
been
for a guard, and
the
then
best
they
trade.
got rid of Dalen Terry. So Dalen Terry goes to the Knicks.
In my opinion, this was the best trade that the Bulls have made. And it's not even like I don't like the guards they got. They're a very guard heavy team. I like what Gershon can be to this team. Gershon wasn't getting used right with the Knicks. We saw how good he was with the Sixers. We saw how good he was with the French national team. I think he's going to have a bit of revitalization on his season. It finally gives them the ability to strip away Patrick Williams' minutes. And I like what they're going to do with this.
Why wasn't Patrick Williams traded? That's all I'm going to say.
No one wants his $18 million contract.
That's true. Alrighty. Next, we have arguably the Bulls' best trade, and then we go to their actual worst trade, in which Minnesota received Io
Oh,
DeSumo
yeah.
and Chicago received Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, a 2026 second round pick, least favorable of Denver or Golden State, a 2027 second round pick from Cleveland, a 2031 first round pick, most favorable of Minnesota or Golden State, and then a 2032 second round pick, most favorable of Phoenix or Houston. This is their worst trade by far.
Sorry, I'm moving you so I can keep an eye on the YouTube stream
Because
analytics.
Ja didn't get traded, but this is their point guard that they were missing. This is Minnesota's point guard that they were missing.
No, I like this because I was worried that Io was going to go to a team that was going to have him sitting on the bench the entire time. Io's been playing well enough to deserve a starting role. I really like what they're going to get out of him and Anthony Edwards together.
Yeah,
This was one of the more underrated trades of the deadline, in my opinion. I
I
think that
really think so.
what we're going to see from this team is overall just cohesive basketball. And I think you can't ask for more if you're the Timberwolves.
Yeah, and they realized the Timberwolves didn't really give up anything because Rob
No.
Dillingham wasn't in their future plans. They didn't give up a single first round pick. They didn't. They only gave up. They really didn't give up any of their picks because they're not going to be better. then Golden State is not going to be better than them in 2031. So they didn't really give up any of their own picks. And then they got a point guard that I think is going to be there for the next 5 to 10 years. So I think this is a great move for Minnesota, and this is a Chicago. What in the world are you doing? Are you? They got worse right now, and I think they potentially got worse in the future because they didn't get a single first round pick in this deadline. So to get off of DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, and Nikola Vucevic, they got their own first back, and they got a singular second pick to get off of
Now,
those
this
four.
team, this was very smart of the Timberwolves.
Yeah. Next, we have the Lakers receiving Luke Kennard and Atlanta receiving Gabe Vincent and a 2032 second round pick.
Bryce, go ahead and talk to us about your opinion as a Lakers fan.
Rob Pelinka needs to go. He does. Rob Pelinka got so lucky by the fact that Luka Doncic was given to him the way he was. Because let's look at the brain dead moves Rob Pelinka has made. Not doing more at the 2026 deadline, signing Russell Westbrook over Buddy Hield, which I think now was an absolute mistake, even though I like Buddy Hield. Letting their entire post championship roster walk this season after they won the championship. Not bringing anybody back except for not trading Taylor Horton Tucker when he had value, getting nothing for him then, and Pelinka has lived off of the fact that February 2nd, 2025 happened, in which the Dallas Mavericks traded him Luka for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first.
100%. This was, I mean, I'm glad they got shooting, but
I'm glad Gabe Vincent's
what is he
gone.
going to do?
I'm glad Gabe Vincent is gone.
This was not the move they needed. They needed to move off of DeAndre Ayton. They needed to move off of Rui Hachimura with his very, very affordable contract. Dalton Connect, who clearly doesn't want to be there. I'm sorry, maybe even shop LeBron James. So, like, it just felt like this made no sense for this team at all. Yeah, I'm glad you got a shooter, but what? That's it? That's all you're going to do for a team who's in the title hunt?
They needed defensive wings because Vando is not that guy anymore. Rui should have gone for another piece. They needed another center. Daniel Gafford was available, and they were only asking for one first-round pick for Daniel Gafford.
Yeah, the Lakers completely blew this.
Michael Porter Jr. could have been an option too.
Very surprised he wasn't traded. Yeah. I will say that.
But I think that it was a win only because they got off of Gabe Vincent, but they should have realistically done more. Next, we have a 3-team trade because Milwaukee receives Nigel Hayes-Davis and Ousmane Dieng. Phoenix receives Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey. And Chicago receives, finally, not a forward or a guard, and they got Nick Richards.
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, I don't think there's really much to this. Milwaukee, I think, if anything, Milwaukee probably wins this trade. Getting Ousmane Dieng, I really like the idea of a younger player for them. Ousmane Dieng now is being traded for a second time. So, I just think, there was really nothing to this. I think Cole Anthony is getting waived or getting bought out. A lot of these guys are kind of just interchangeable with each other. So, this felt like another nothing trade.
Yeah. I don't know why I still thought Cole Anthony was in Orlando. I don't know why. I still thought he was.
Well, he was traded. He was traded in the Desmond Bane trade.
He went to Milwaukee.
He went to. I know he got traded to Milwaukee in that Desmond Bane trade.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this is really a nothing trade. Getting Nick Richards is nice. Which,
I mean, they needed him after they traded away Vucevic, so they needed a center.
Yeah. So this guy is going to play good minutes for them, but at the same time, I don't really think that this is more than just an average trade. Next, we have the New York Knicks receiving Jose Alvarado, and New Orleans receives Dalen Terry, 2 second-round picks, and cash. This was the only move that the New Orleans Pelicans made.
Yeah, so I think we kind of got a little fooled by the idea of all these big names getting traded. Jose Alvarado was kind of always on his way out. You have
Yeah,
DeJounte Murray, you have Jordan Poole, you have who did they just draft this season? Point guard wise?
Jeremiah Fears, right?
Jeremiah Fierce, who's been really good for
Yeah,
them. Jose Alvarado is kind of the odd man out. Really hasn't been playing much. Actually been racking up some DNPs. Um, so it makes sense for the Knicks to get him. You can always go for good defensive point guard play.
yeah,
I actually like, New Orleans getting Dalen Terry. I think he's a very good player. I think he's someone who doesn't get enough minutes, but when he plays very well.
yeah.
And then the second round picks are going to be very helpful for them.
Considering
My
they don't
question
have their own
is,
first this year.
my question is, does this lead to a Zion Williamson trade in the offseason? Because
No,
it feels like it's time for them to like move off of him.
yeah, but it's like the Bulls. They're gonna hold on, and the Bucks. They're gonna hold on to Zion for way too long, and then they're gonna get nothing for him, and then he's gonna go somewhere else, and he's gonna be absolutely insane. That's
So
exactly what it's gonna be.
yeah, it's just it feels very pointless, if I'm being
Yeah,
totally real.
yeah, and I don't really get it. They could have done so much more, trading Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, um, building around Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears, trading DeJounte
Yeah.
Murray's contract because he's not going to play this year, trying to get something for Jordan Poole.
Hey,
They could have done so much more, but the fact that this is the only move they made and they didn't really get much in the process is just baffling to me. Next, we have Brooklyn receiving Hunter Tyson and a 2032 second round pick, and Denver receives a 2026 second round pick, which is the least favorable of the Clippers and the Hawks.
so it's for the next few trades until we get to the one big one. This is going to be some pretty pointless
Yeah,
trades. Another one, Hunter Tyson's going to be a guy who sits on the bench. Denver just getting some picks. The only
yeah,
thing that matters to them is they're getting a pick this year.
yeah.
I think this trade is pretty much okay. Who cares?
Next one is a trade that I still don't fully know, but I had to put it anyways because it was a trade. Brooklyn receives Josh Minot and Boston receives TBD. We still don't
Let's
know
see if
yet.
Shams put anything up about it. Even though
I
Shams
tried to
is,
find I tried to find
then again, Shams. I
anything.
don't know if we can
Nobody
trust
has
him
said
for anything. This man's
yeah.
just trying to push freaking Kalshi. That's all he cares about.
Giannis going out to
Yeah,
other teams
as of right
talking to
now, all we know is they're just sending out Josh Mino.
yeah, no. I don't know what Boston receives. I really don't. And quite frankly, this is a nothing burger even if we did know.
Yeah, I mean the guy's averaging 6 points a game. It's not like you're really gonna get
He was
much.
starting to heat up though, apparently what I was reading from people is that he was starting to heat up recently.
It's just people like him. That's the
Yeah.
the big thing.
Alrighty. Next we have Memphis receiving Eric Gordon and a 2032 second round pick swap. Philadelphia receives a 2032 second round pick swap.
Once again, Eric Gordon has barely played this season. I don't really see how much this does. He's a good depth piece, averaging 6 points a game off the bench. Has been getting a lot of DNP. Actually, only played 6 games this year, so
Yeah. Okay.
this is probably the
Here
last
is
big
the
trade of
biggest
the
trade
day.
of the deadline. This is the most impactful, the biggest trade of the deadline. The Indiana Pacers receive Ivica Zubac and Kobe Brown. The Los Angeles Clippers receive Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, a 2026 1 through 4 and 10 through 30 protected first round pick. That if Indiana keeps it this year, it turns into an unprotected 2031 first round pick, a 2029 unprotected first round pick, and a second round pick.
So I love this for the Clippers, and I love this for both teams. I think Ivica Zubac is the player that the Pacers needed. Everyone talks about how they've been lacking center play, and they're right. This team has been really struggling in the big man department. Kobe Brown is a good player. You don't know what you're going to get from him from night to night, but he's a guy worth taking a flyer on. 26 years old. Let's see if he can do anything for your depth. The Clippers, in my opinion, got the best deal of this. Isaiah Jackson, very good in my opinion, super underrated. He's going to play now in this place of Ivica Zubac, but Benedict Mathurin, man, he is outstanding. Really, really good defensive player, and you can kind of tell what this team is going for. Benedict Mathurin averaging 17.8, 5.4, 2.3 assists on 43% from the field. Efficient shooting, 37% from three and 88% from the line. This guy is he's going to be good for them, and he's only 23 years old.
Yeah.
So the
So
pick, it has a really small chance of being where it's at. You basically have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have 5 spots for it to fall into. The Pacers are the worst team in the East. You have to basically really hope for them to heat up because of Zubats, or just get the multiple picks in the next few drafts.
yeah, and I think the Benedict Mathurin kind of makes up for them not having their first this year.
Yeah,
I think the draft lottery is going to be huge for the Pacers and the Clippers and the Thunder because the Thunder have the Clippers pick, and then the Pacers keep this pick this year if it's 1 through 4 and 10 through 30, and then the Clippers have to watch Indiana's pick to see if it falls between 5 and 9.
to
And
me,
then I do think that the Clippers are going to bring back Benedict Mathurin. I do think they are. I think
100%.
Benedict Mathurin and Darius Garland as a guard tandem for your
Once again,
future
they're
is
both
wild.
Benedict Mathurin, 23 years old, right? Darius Garland's 26. That means you have these guys for another decade.
Yeah,
And
maybe
I
at
think
least 5 years.
Mathurin,
At
at
least
least
definitely 5 years.
Benedict Mathurin, also being a very good defensive player as is, imagine him learning from Kawhi Leonard.
The claw.
The
Well,
Clippers, I get it. The rest of the NBA is pissed off at them, but I don't even think this leads to them losing a bunch of games. I think they might go on a bit of a tear. Let Mathurin and let Darius Garland do their thing. Let's see what you get out of Isaiah Jackson. I really like this for the Clippers. I think they got younger and they got better and they got picks. That's what they
my
needed.
only question is what is their center position going to look like? Because that is something that Big Zoo has been solidifying for the last few
I
years.
agree. But I think Isaiah Jackson's going to fill that pretty well. I mean, once again, he's no zoo, but he's a 6'9", 24-year-old center. He's going to get you. I mean, he's more of a power forward. But I mean, you got to look for the buyout market. See if there's anyone who can
They
fill
still
that
have
spot.
Yannick Conan Niederhauser to see if he can become something because they did draft him in this draft. But yeah, this is obviously
I mean, if we look at the depth
I
chart,
think the
right now you still have
Pacers.
Brooke Lopez, who's going to play.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot he was there. Like
John
he's going to be their
Collins, who
starter,
can slide into that role if you need.
but he's not a natural center.
No. Isaiah Jackson is your backup center.
And then Yannick Conan Niederhauser.
Yannick Conan Niederhauser. What the heck? That is a tongue. That is a
I do
mouth.
think. Well, we're going to talk about winners and losers later, but this is a potential 8-time trade winner. Deadline winner. Next, we have Charlotte receiving Malachi Branham and Dallas receiving Tyus Jones.
Yeah, I like this for Dallas. I like this for both, to be honest. Once again, Malachi Branham is being shifted again. Um, I think this more matters. Actually, I think both guys got traded today, didn't they?
They both got traded once before the deadline.
Yeah, they were both
So,
basically just two guys who already got traded being traded again.
yeah.
I think both players receive a new spot they needed to go to. I think Dallas gives Tyus Jones the ability to play more.
And
And I think
he
Malachi
probably
Branham
becomes their
fits with
starter
Charlotte
right now.
pretty well.
I think Tyus Jones becomes their starter for now, meaning Cooper Flag does not have to play point guard.
Yeah.
So
And it gives them a consistent point guard because Tyus Jones has been in the league for a few years. He knows how to play ball. He's pretty good.
he does. Alrighty. Next, the final trade that we have is Charlotte receiving Xavier Tillman Sr. and $3.5 million, and Boston receives TBD because I still don't know yet. I still haven't been able to find out anything about this trade.
Once again, I think that, giving up Xavier Tillman is kind of sucks. I mean, Xavier Tillman is once again a pretty solid bench player. I think Charlotte can always use bench help, especially after trading away a center earlier. I believe it was
Not Nick Richards.
Mason Plumlee.
Yeah.
Mason Plumlee. So who was waived? So I think get some good bench play. But I'm excited for this team. I think Charlotte made the right moves, and also I know a lot of people are gonna say I'm wrong, but I think the right move was holding on to LaMelo Ball.
I really think it is. Because they were starting to go on a winning streak. And why do you trade your stars when now you're starting to play well?
Yeah.
Because they're healthy. Guess what? LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller are healthy. And this is exactly what everybody thought the Hornets were going to be if they were healthy. So that was all the trades. If you're still watching, what was your most impactful trade of the deadline? What was? Because we really want to know before and even yeah, thank you for watching, people. We're still not done yet. We still have a little bit of time. But next we have a this came out from Shams after the deadline had passed that Brooklyn is waiving Cam Thomas, who will be a free agent and can sign wherever he wants.
Yeah, I think Cam Thomas, in my opinion, I mean, you and I both are not the highest on Cam Thomas. We think
Yeah,
at the end of the day, like the guy isn't like really that awesome of a player. I think you're probably going to see him signing with a team like the Celtics or the Bucks.
yeah,
Um, I think he is overall gonna probably find himself falling to a team who can just use shooting off the bench. Maybe the Sixers, but then again, you give up a guard just to get another guard.
I do think Cam Thomas's days of starting in the NBA are gone.
I just
I think
don't
they
think
are.
of him as a starting caliber player.
He's not. If you want to bring him as like a third string shooting guard, I'm fine with that. A guy who occasionally plays minutes, gets some shots up off the bench, averages like 9, 10 points a game. I think that's where exactly where he's going to be.
Sorry, I mean,
But the fact that he doesn't pass, he doesn't rebound, and he doesn't play defense, and he's very inefficient is really, and the fact that he doesn't want to learn any of the aspects of those because he just said, I want to score. Guess what? We live in a dead era where that doesn't, where we live in an era where that doesn't matter now. You have to be able to do more than just score. We have to. You have to be able to play defense. You have to be able to pass. You have to be able to score and shoot. And Cam Thomas can score and shoot, but the problem is he's not efficient and he can't play defense. He can't pass and he can't rebound, and he won't learn to get better at any of those things.
yeah, I think he is just a kind of a give
He's
him
an
the ball
empty
and run
stat.
chuck
He's
it
an
guy.
empty stat pattern.
And we never you see empty stat patterns don't have the ability to work for a good team. Um, let's take a look at the team who won last year and the year before. The Thunder won last year. They're a cohesive unit who plays well together. The Celtics, and same thing, a cohesive unit who plays well together. They all do their role. There is no one on those teams who are just chuck it up and watch the ball go in. Even Shea, who is a consistent 30 point per game scorer, is a really good defender. He's going to facilitate the ball well. Jason Tatum, who's a 27, 28 per game scorer, he's going to facilitate the ball well. He's going to rebound. He plays defense. Cam Thomas doesn't do any of that. He shoots the ball, and that's all. The moment we saw Michael Porter come along, who was still efficient enough to get the ball into someone else's hands or rebound and play a little defense, the Nets kind of realized how unnecessary Cam Thomas was to that team.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't really know where he could go that would be a good fit because
I don't the more so I said Boston, and I think about it, I don't think they're gonna want a player of him like him. I think if anything, you kind of find him on a team who just wants to try to get a name who can put up 20 points per game to make a push for the playoffs. Maybe a Dallas to have him come off the bench. I if I were you, Bryce, as a Lakers fan, I'd be a little worried. I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
that's what I'm hearing.
surprised.
That's the initial thing I'm hearing right now, and it makes me so scared. I don't
Another
want
thing with the
Cam Thomas
Lakers is
anywhere in a Lakers
another thing with the
jersey.
Lakers is do you have to wonder if Chris Paul might end up with them.
I don't want Chris Paul either. I don't. I don't want Chris Paul. I didn't want him in 2013 when the rumored trade was going to happen. I don't want Chris Paul. He's a guy that if you don't want to win a title, you have Chris Paul on your team. But
Chris Paul's a player.
But I don't. Yeah, no. Everybody, if you've been watching me for a while, you know my feelings on Chris Paul as a player and as a legend. But yeah. Next, we're going to move on to the winners of the deadline because I gave my 5 winners of the deadline and I gave my 5 losers of the deadline. But who? So my first winner of the deadline at number 5 is Boston. I think that they got a really good player at a position of need. I think they did. I think they got a really good player at a position of need in Nikola Vucevic while not really having to give up that much. I think that they didn't have to give up that much. They got a position of need and they didn't lose any draft capital because they did a pick swap. They got a better pick, actually. And this team's next year is going to be scary because they're going to have Nikola Vucevic. They're going to have Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, yada yada yada, so on and so on. And I do think that this team is going to be scary in the future. And as a Lakers fan, I hate it.
For me, I think so. I just kind of grabbed some teams. I didn't write this stuff down like you did. I think the Hawks are one of my winners of the deadline. I really like the moves they made. I think
Oh yeah.
I understand, you know, I get it. You didn't get Anthony Davis. Um you didn't get Giannis Antetokounmpo, but the players they got do make a lot of sense. Jonathan Kuminga, I'm not the highest on him. He fits a great as a role player on the bench. CJ McCollum has been really good for them. Corey Kispert's still young enough. Duop Reith, once again, young enough to can make a difference. You got a ridiculous amount of picks. No, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. You get Buddy Heald. I like them as or Gabe Vincent, who can be a little bit of a spark plug, get a second round pick. I like what they got, so I'll put them as my fifth.
Here's my thing. There were so many winners of the deadline because so many teams made moves that
Mhm.
it was hard to pick five. And I do love Atlanta's trade deadline. I think they're a team that if we look back in a little bit after all the trades, after all the moves they made, yes, they didn't get a first, but they kept all of their core. They got expiring contracts. They got a good core. They got Corey Kispert to be a reliable shooter off their bench. They kept Zachary Reese-Shea, Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, and Kongwu, Nikhil Alexander Walker, and they have New Orleans first round pick this year. They have their own first round pick this year. So I'm really excited about the future of the Hawks. I do think, however, it's going to be still a while before they make the championship or before they become a title contender. And I think Boston is already a title contender even without their star right away, right now.
I can see that. Who is your number one loser of the deadline?
The number one, well, my
Oh,
number
we want a
five
five to
loser,
one.
yeah,
Five, sorry.
my number five loser is the Kings. I do think they made some trades. However, I don't feel like they moved off the pieces that they should have. They should have moved
Mhm.
Russell Westbrook, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, DeMontis Sabonis, and yet here we are, 3:18 p.m. On Thursday, February 5th, 3 hours after the trade deadline, and all of them are still there.
No, I can. So I realize I don't have them written down. So what we'll do is we'll just do yours. But I can agree with you. I think the Kings needed to make more moves. At least get rid of Demonis Bonus. I think it was going to be hard to get off of the Zach Levine or what's his name,
DeMar
DeMar
DeRozan.
DeRozan contract. But Demonis Sabonis is still a good enough player where he should get you something. So the fact that they didn't, I don't know, they didn't take calls or this didn't do anything. Sabonis should be on a new team.
My number four winner, I think, is the Grizzlies. I think that they got a huge haul for Jaren Jackson. However, I do think that their chemistry is going to hurt for the rest of the way after knowing that they didn't trade John Morant, knowing that they're going to move on from him. And I think he's going to be gone. However, I do think that they messed up by not trading Ja. But they still got a huge haul for Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, I think the reason I could keep them that low because they didn't move Ja. I think what happened with Ja is they just weren't going to get what they wanted. I think they saw what Trey Young got traded for, and they didn't want to get the same haul. So they're like, "Look, we're going to hold on to the guy. If he comes back and plays, maybe he plays well, but they're going to trade him in the offseason. It's pretty much a
Yeah.
guarantee."
My fourth loser is the Bucks by simply the fact that Giannis is still on the team. That's it. Like they made one move, and it wasn't involving Giannis.
I
And
think we should have known he wasn't going to get traded, though.
I knew he wasn't going to get traded, but at the same time, it was kind of stupid that they didn't because they know he's going to be gone. And I think that the whole we're shopping him, but they really realistically weren't going to trade him when asking 6 second round picks. Let's be honest, no player gets no player gets 6 first round picks, which is what they were asking. Prime Michael Jordan wouldn't have gone for 6 first round picks.
I think the Bucks, in my opinion, because they were never going to trade him, the player they should have moved on from was Kyle Kuzma. I think he was a mistake to trade for last year, and then I think they should have tried to move on from Miles Turner. You would have got a lot of offers for him. I think, to be honest, we saw Anthony Simons traded for a center, I think you could have made a move to get Anthony Simons.
Yeah, and it's weird because the Bucks are so usually we're going to trade all of our assets to get guys to help Giannis, and they did none of that this year. They did none of that this year. They said they were dangling Giannis over teams' heads and knowing realistically they weren't going to make a trade to see what they could get just to turn everybody down and then say, oh, we weren't satisfied with the offers when in reality they weren't going to trade them in the first place. So I do think they're the fourth biggest losers. However, they're not the biggest losers because some other teams really messed up a bit more. Next, my third biggest winner, I think, is the Jazz. The Jazz got a million times better this trade, and I could have put the Wizards on our top five on my top five, but then again, as I said before, so many teams won this deadline. But I think the Jazz won huge by getting Jaren Jackson Jr. Not giving up their 2026 first to get him, and yeah, I that the Jazz are huge winners.
Your AirPods die.
Yeah, yeah, they did.
I could tell that the audio changed.
Yeah.
No, I think the Jazz had an outstanding deadline. And it's weird because like it's hard to like look at a team and be like they made one move and it was probably the best deadline. But no, honestly, well, actually, because they made two moves, but getting like one actual move done, have saying one of the best deadlines, but they did a great job. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be a vital piece for this team's future. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's great because Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't have to be their primary option. He doesn't even have to be their secondary option because Lowry Markkinen and Keontae George can be the 1 and 2, and then Jaren Jackson just has to worry about roaming defense in the paint,
And
being a spot up shooter, and not having to rebound because they have Walker Kessler for that.
there's a chance that he goes from having to be the number one option to the number four option because we don't know how Ace Bailey turns out.
Yeah, yeah,
And that could be the perfect fit for him. He's a good offensive player, but when he's not asked to be your number one guy, the year that Ja Morant exploded is the year that he won Defensive Player of the Year
yeah.
because he was allowed to play the ball he plays. And I really think it'll be super complimentary with Walker Kessler finally covering up the rebounding flaw he has.
George, Isaiah Collier, Ace Bailey, Kyle Filipowski. It'll be complimentary for all of them.
Well, I think about his rebounding flaws. I think about the fact that he is overall is not a great rebounder for being almost 7 foot tall. So Walker Kessler is going to make up for that. Larry Markkinen's a pretty decent rebounder for a small forward. I think he walked into the perfect situation for him.
And with the Jazz being such a small market team, the only way to get a guy like a Jaren Jackson Jr., unless it's through the draft, is by trading for Jaren Jackson Jr. Because
Yeah.
you're not going to sign a Jaren Jackson Jr. out of free agency. Nobody wants to go to Utah. Let's be honest. Utah is not a free agency destination. So the only way to realistically get a guy like that is by drafting him or by trading for one. And I think the fact that they did really solidifies this team as we're done tanking. We want to be competitive for next year. So next, my third biggest loser of the deadline is the Heat for doing nothing.
Why do I keep freezing?
They're the third biggest loser because they did absolutely nothing when they realistically should have done something to improve this roster. They have a lot of holes. Maybe trade Tyler Hero. Maybe try to make a move for Giannis. Maybe. I don't even think they made an offer for Giannis. I don't even think. I saw that they threw an offer out. I don't know how true that was, but the fact that Pat Riley continues to do nothing at deadline after deadline after deadline after deadline after deadline and keeps getting a pass from Heat ownership is disgusting. It's disgraceful. Pat Riley needs to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. Not even like shopping Andrew Wiggins
Yeah.
or seeing what you can get out of some of the like Davion Mitchell.
Well,
The fact that they have so many valuable pieces that it's just a little surprising. Like I think this team should have been a buyer, should have been a seller,
yeah.
and they're gonna be content sitting in the play-in seat again.
Yeah. And it sucks because I feel like the Heat are a big market team. Like the Heat are they're South Beach. They're prime time basketball. We look at the days of Dwayne Wade and Shaq. Then they go from LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. And then they had the Jimmy Butler era that was incredible. And then they're in this weird transitional era where they're not great, they're not bad, but they're also not good either. They're just meh, but they're good enough because the East is the way it is. They're good enough to make the play in. And I think Pat Riley is solely solidified in the fact that their team is not bad.
Yeah, I think I was about to say Pat Riley is all to blame for this. He is so obsessed with it being like the same old days where he is the genius. But I'm sorry, if you look at people like Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens, they're making good moves that make their team better. Maybe they might not be better right now, but their team is gonna be better.
Yeah.
Pat Riley's sitting pat and thinking he can get all these marquee people to come to his team in the off season because he's Miami doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And I see people talking about maybe they didn't want to jeopardize making a move that would have cost them Giannis in the offseason when they don't even make offseason trades. They don't even do that. The only reason they made a trade at the deadline last year is because Jimmy Butler forced his way out. That's it. Otherwise, they would have been perfectly happy letting Jimmy Butler play in Miami unhappy. They would have been perfectly happy with keeping Jimmy Butler in Miami and not playing him as long as he didn't request out, didn't demand out. But my second biggest winner of the deadline would have to be the Pacers. They made one move, and it was the biggest move of the deadline. It was the biggest trade of the deadline. No team improved better for their future than the Indiana Pacers did, with the exception of one. With the exception of one.
Well, you're thinking of the future. Zubats is a 30-year-old center.
Yeah.
Now, I think this makes them better when Tyrese Halliburton comes back.
Yeah, which is their future. I
That's
think yeah, but they're also probably not going to play him the rest of the way, and they're going to tank, and then they're going to get a top 3 pick in this draft, and then their lineup is going to be one of the top 4 players. If it's a Zubats, Pascal, who's an all-star, Tyrese Maxey, and then or Tyrese Halliburton. Like that's their big 4 right there. That's their big 4, and you can trade Jarris Walker in the offseason. He's not part of your future plans. You still have Obi Toppin on your bench, who's loved by Pacers fans, who's a really good bench player.
Andrew Nemhard.
Yeah, Andrew Nemhard's going to be their starting shooting guard because Benedict Mathurin was not going to start over him. And they kept TJ McConnell, who's a point guard that they really love and that they really need. I love this for the Pacers. However, there's one team I love better. But we're going to move on to the second biggest loser of the deadline, and that is the Pelicans for keeping everybody that they shouldn't have kept.
Yeah, I have to agree with you wholeheartedly. Even if you weren't going to trade Zion, that's fine. Trey Murphy and Herb Jones were 2 guys who were going to get you a haul. I think you have to move off of the 2 guys because they're not part of your future, and that's okay. Your future is Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen.
Yeah.
And Yves Misi. Like, you got to recognize the talent you have in the building and the players who don't fit your timeline.
Yeah. And
Zion didn't fit your timeline. Jordan Poole doesn't fit your timeline. DeJounte Murray doesn't fit your timeline.
Yeah.
I think you have to move off of these guys, and their inability to take that move and their fear of it is going to cost them massively because they gave up an unprotected first round pick that's probably in the top 5.
It's going to.
Their team is bad.
Project to number 1 because they have the worst record in the league.
Their team is bad. You don't have a pick. Why not try to recoup some of that?
Yeah.
Trey Murphy would have gotten you at least 2 picks. Herb Jones could have got you a first. Zion would have got you something serious.
I guarantee you Chicago would have given out 4 first-round picks.
Chicago would have given them probably Kobe White, Ayodesumu, and 2 picks.
And Nikola Vucevic.
I don't think Vuce. I think he was always going to be a Celtic.
Modest Buzelis.
No, Modest is part of their future.
You're right. But next we have my biggest winner of the deadline, and that is the Los Angeles Clippers. I think when you make the moves that they did, when you get off of a James Harden who clearly didn't want to be there anymore, you get Darius Garland, you get a second-round pick this year, you get Benedict Mathurin, you get 2 first-round picks in this trade, one of which, the 2026 pick that could be yours if it's 5 through 9, and then 2031 if it's not 5 through 9. You get a 2029 unprotected first, you get a second-round pick, and you get Isaiah Jackson as well, who's a good piece. They also got off Chris Paul. What other moves did they make? They made another move out here somewhere. No, they didn't. It was just those 2. But no, they did make another move. That's right.
They got rights to a player.
That's right. But when that's the moves you make, and you're clearly planning for your future without having your own draft pick. And I think when you don't have your own draft pick, the best way to get value is to trade guys that you don't think are going to be part of your future. And I get they wanted Zubats to be a part of their future, but when Indiana dangled 2 firsts in their face for if it's a Zubats, you had
and a second.
Yeah, and a second. and another guy who's going to play meaningful minutes for your team. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think you're right. The Clippers are wholeheartedly the winners of this. And for you as a Lakers fan to say that, that's tough.
Yeah.
The Clippers made the right moves, moving off of James Harden, who didn't want to be there. I mean, as a Cavs fan, I understand what you're getting with Darius Garland. He is limited defensively, so you know what you do? You add on a guy like Benedict Mathurin. You have Kawhi Leonard, John Collins, like even Brooke Lopez, who will play decent defense.
Yeah.
Uh, Is it like staticky for me? Like when I talk,
No.
so
No.
weird.
Okay. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who my biggest loser of the deadline is going to be because it's a team we pretty much bashed this whole entire live stream. That is the Chicago Bulls. Over and over again, they traded a guard for a guard. They traded a big for a guard. They traded forwards for guards. They didn't get a single first round pick back in any of the trades. They got 9 seconds and no firsts.
Sorry, Kenny Beecham.
Yeah, sorry, King of the fourth quarter. Like, and they got rid of Kobe White, who's a Bulls fan favorite. They got rid of Ayo Dosunmu for pretty much nothing. That was their biggest loss of the trade deadline. Their biggest loss of the trade deadline really was not getting a first and not really getting any bigs. That was the biggest loss of the trade deadline.
This
But
felt their trades felt like lateral moves. Actually, no, they felt like they were worse. Like they were getting worse.
yeah,
You cannot give up Io DeSumo and get back Rob Dillingham. You can't give up Kobe White and get back Colin Sexton, who I'm a fan of. As a Cavs fan, I understand he has a lot of value as a player. That was overall very frustrating.
yeah. And I get the Clippers, or I get the Cavs. They want to be better now. And guess what? James Harden makes them better right now. Keon Ellis makes them better right now. Dennis Schroeder makes them better right now. The Bulls did no moves that make me feel like they will be better now or in the future. And at least the Pelicans got some sort of value with trading Jose Alvarado. They got Dalen Terry in a second round pick, who is a guy who looks like he's going to be part of their key future of their future. The fact that the Bulls got guards when they had so many guards in the first place in Josh Giddey, Modest Buzelis, in Noah Essengay hasn't even played yet.
No.
Yeah,
This team just makes no sense for what they're doing.
And the Lakers were my number 2 biggest loser of the deadline, but at least they made a move that didn't make them worse. It just kept them the same. Well, it made them a little better because Gabe Vincent's not a Laker anymore. That's it. Trust me, had any of the other teams made a better move than the Pelicans, Heat, Bucks, or Kings, they would have been on. The Lakers would have been on the top 5. But because the fact that the Heat did nothing, the fact that the Bucks did nothing beneficial, the fact that the Kings didn't get rid of their core, the fact that the Pelicans didn't get rid of their core is the only reason why the Lakers aren't on my top 5 biggest losers.
Bryce, I'm going to read you a Bleacher Report article with 4 of the biggest buyout candidates. It's probably the last thing we do because we're already going for an hour and a half. You tell me what team you think they fit best on. First off is Chris Paul.
I don't know. I really don't. Because Chris Paul's a guy who didn't really play on the Clippers when they started off the year bad. And he didn't even play once they got good either. They sent him home 3 months ago, and then everybody just forgot he was even a Clipper. I thought they released him. But I could honestly see the Bulls because they really don't know what they're doing. They're like, oh, Chris Paul will be a veteran piece. But no, in all honesty, maybe I could see Orlando bringing in a Chris Paul as a veteran point guard. Yeah.
All right, next up, the name is Mike Conley.
Mike Conley's going back to Minnesota.
You think he's going to go back to Minnesota?
Yeah.
Interesting. Next up, Lonzo Ball.
Lonzo, I could see Charlotte. There were reports of him going to Charlotte in the first place, so I think it's finally time for the Ball brothers to play together.
You don't think he's going to come home, go to the Lakers or the Clippers?
Honestly, the Lakers would be a good move because they need defense. And despite all Lonzo's injuries, the one thing that has never fallen is his ability to shoot, play defense, and pass the ball, and all of which Lakers really need right now.
And the final player who I think probably will end up on your team is DeMar DeRozan. Where do you think he ends up?
Honestly, right now, I think he could be a Clipper. I really think that he would sign with the Clippers right now after the Bradley Beal
Yeah.
thing didn't work. I think that he could be bought out and then come home and go play for the other LA team and the Clippers.
Yeah, I can see that. We already know Cam Thomas was waived. I can see him heading to a team like, I don't know, anyone who sucks. I don't know who that is.
I don't care, but they just signed him to a 4-year deal. So
Wow, the Kings' biggest move of the trade deadline, signing a rookie center.
signing a rookie center.
All right, guys. Well, we have been live for an hour and a half. I know I'm a little tired. Just got home from work. Bryce, I'm sure you have things to do. You have a lot of clips. You got a lot of stuff to be posting.
Yeah.
So, guys, if you enjoyed this, hey, let us know. We had a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah.
This is something we want to keep doing. More live streams for this channel. Also, for us, the goal is to live stream on our Cold Cat Sports channel. So, what we want you to do is go check that out. The podcast is posted on here and there. Get us to 50 subs on the Cold Cat Sports channel so we can live stream on there.
We're at 20 right now. We're at 24 right now.
So we need 26 more subs so we can live stream on there. But my phone is at 20%, so I definitely got to go. We will see you guys in the next. What's up?
Well, mine's at 24. Or mine's at 64, I mean.
So we will see you guys in the next live stream. Thanks for hanging out with us for an hour and a half. Guys, enjoy the trade deadline. Let's have fun with the buyouts that come tomorrow.
Yep.
Peace.
Peace.